today we're diving into the exciting world of digital advertising and entrepreneurship.
If you don't think about value, the value equation, anytime you're making anything that you want to grow, you have to be thinking about the value that you're bringing to the customer.
Listeners, remember that every entrepreneur's journey is different. So celebrate your wins, learn from your challenges, and don't shy away from seeking support when you need it.
Marketing is one of the easiest ways if you're trying to just drive conversions or acquisitions online. It's one of the easiest ways to do that because you just search people that are looking for your product and then you can actually advertise them.
Listeners, the future belongs to those who prepare today. So stay curious, embrace innovation, and never stop learning.
Yeah, I hate to say traditional media, but I think if you're a small business, you really need to really focus on the digital aspect versus the traditional aspect, which is more of a shotgun effect.
Hi everyone, this is Maheen and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast, where today we're diving into the exciting world of digital advertising and entrepreneurship. Our guest today is Noel Geer, who is the CEO and founder of Connected Interactive, a visionary in advertising technology. With decades of expertise in digital advertising, data monetization, and product development, Noel has created innovative solutions that empower brands to maximize their media investments and achieve remarkable growth. So let's jump into this fascinating conversation. Noel, welcome to the show. We're very pleased to have you with us this evening. How's it going?
Good. It's going great.
Well, we're very thrilled to have you join the podcast, and it's an absolute pleasure to host someone with your incredible expertise and inspiring journey. So we'd welcome you again. Now let's explore key trends that are transforming digital advertising and helping small businesses connect with audiences to drive their growth. Because the digital advertising landscape now is constantly evolving. And for small businesses, staying ahead means understanding the trends and understanding how to leverage the right tools. Noel, what's your take on the current state of digital advertising and what trends should small businesses focus on to stay competitive?
So I think everything's changing. The rate of change in technology right now with AI and what's happening, it's changing at such a high rate that it's very difficult to keep up in some cases.
Right.
Advertising in general is changing. The days right now, just as an example, 4 weeks ago, a trend came out that there's a drop of 10 to 30% of search traffic, which search engine marketing is one of the easiest ways if you're trying to just drive conversions or acquisitions online. It's one of the easiest ways to do that because you just search people that are looking for your product and then you can actually advertise to them.
Right.
AI is changing that whole thing. That's, when you talk about marketing, it's always a discussion about the funnel, right? So like, how are you reaching a lot of people and driving them down to that, low funnel, which is, getting them to a conversion. Hopefully that makes sense. But AI is changing a lot of this. But marketing, from a digital perspective is becoming more connected at a local level than it ever has been. So if I was to think about, as a small business, what's happening in the digital marketing space or just the marketing and advertising space in general, that's to my advantage as a small business, I would say there's so much that you can do now at a hyper local level. You think about TV. I mean, you wouldn't have even thought as a small business, unless you have, $5 million a year to spend at a minimum, and that's even small. You wouldn't even think about TV.
Correct.
Right? But now there is, YouTube is essentially a TV channel. 30% of the watch time in the living room now is on YouTube.
Correct.
Which is crazy, right? It's a TV channel. You've got connected TV. And you can get more local with radio which is now audio. And you're able to get more hyper targeted. So that's a huge opportunity for small businesses to not have to, look at these big marketing channels and platforms as behemoths, because you can actually go onto these channels and you can target in a much more granular, hyper level way. And as you think about what's happening with content and social media, thinking about content and how you can get creative with it. That's another thing that is really important. There's a whole another episode to talk about that. But as the landscape is changing, thinking about the message and thinking about how local you can get with the message. And that's something that I think, small businesses really should be thinking about as much as possible, because there's lots of opportunity for disruption between small businesses and large businesses now. The space between being a small business and being able to create disruption and disrupting a large business's, customer base, it's a lot closer now than it was before.
You're absolutely right. And these are some great insights, Noel. I mean, it's fascinating how technology continues to shape the way we connect with our audiences. But could you share a bit more about Connected and how it's empowering businesses to target their ideal customers?
Sure. So at Connected, we started the company in 2011. We were focused just on mobile, and then we expanded it into what we call an omni-channel approach in 2016. And all that means is there's, something called programmatic advertising, which means it's everything outside of search and social. It's the web, right? It's connected TV, it's YouTube, it's display ads, it's video, it's all this stuff. So we got very much into how to reach consumers across all of these different channels. But our core focus is utilizing data in order to identify your most valuable customers. So we started to map purchase data in Canada 8 years ago. We were the first to bring MasterCard advertising, utilizing MasterCard data to target people based on purchase data. We're the first ones to bring it to digital advertising in Canada. And since then, we've partnered up with Moneris, which is the largest point of sale platform. And what we've done is we've identified households based on purchase activity, so that if you're selling a specific type of product, we can identify offline data, in-store sales data, to say these are the households that are spending the most or the most often on the type of product that you're selling.
Right.
Utilizing offline data and applying it to an online world. And that's something that's very unique for us. So understanding purchase behavior, because it's still 70% of retail sales is still done in store, believe it or not.
Right.
And then there's affinity, right? So affinity just means the like-minded. So if somebody that's like-minded to your brand or your type of product, do they shop at Walmart? Do they attend hockey games, that sort of thing? So what are their affinities? And taking that affinity information and combining that with purchase data allows us to say, these are the people that you want to target, because if you do, they're going to give you the biggest return on your dollar. Because it just makes sense. If I can target the people that spend the most, and I can probably make the most money out of the return that I get. And therefore I can actually put more investment into the advertising that I'm doing. And in doing so, potentially create more margin even. Because you could target everybody, right? Or you could also target the 20% that spend the most. So it's kind of that 80-20 rule. And our data allows you to identify who that 20% is.
Your insights really highlight, what matters most in today's market, which is great. It's something that you mentioned it's so beautifully, that staying competitive in digital advertising, it requires adaptability and a great strategy. And so it's something that we'd love to delve, deeper into. But before that, let's explore how businesses can harness data to drive growth, because data is such a powerful tool in marketing, but knowing how to use it effectively is quite the key. And while your work has been groundbreaking in this area, how can small business owners harness data and technology to make informed marketing decisions and drive their growth?
So it's a great question. And when you talk about data, it's one of those things that, can just proliferate into an ocean, right?
Right.
So, I think I've told you about what we do and obviously utilizing things like purchase data, that's huge. If I was a small business though, before I get there, before I start thinking about things like affinity and how do I target the right audience, the one thing that is going to stand true above all else is going to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to nail that first. So, thinking about how the message resonates. And social media is such a great platform to get opportunity to speak to an audience for free.
Correct.
Right? That it gives you the ability to just test and learn before you even spend a dime.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more difficult for, smaller businesses that don't have as much reach as, say, a major brand. But the one thing that has changed in social media is it used to be about your network.
Right.
TikTok changed that. So what happened was the algorithms within social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you'd build a following and you'd build a group of people and you'd build your network. And then anytime you wanted to talk to them and send a message out, it was about how big your network is. When TikTok came in, they actually changed that and said, no, it's actually about the engagement. And that's what they call, if you ever listen to Gary Vee, he calls it the TikTokification, but they call it the interest graph. So the algorithm looks at the content and goes, oh, this, you can be talking to one person and the engagement is really high. And the algorithm goes, oh, that's really good engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So then it feeds it to 3. And they say, oh, it's doing very, and then it expands. You could literally on that platform have 100 followers or 50 followers and end up getting 10 million views on a creative because it's so engaging.
Right.
And sometimes you don't even know what that looks like. Or you could have 10 million followers and you only get 1,000 views, or 10,000 views. So that's changing, and that's an opportunity for small businesses to take advantage of, to think about how to just get creative, have fun with it, and start there. And then once you get that feedback and you kind of start to understand what's resonating, then you can dive into the audiences. So now that I know what's resonating, now how do I target the audiences that I care the most about? So nail that process first, have fun with it, and then move on to the next step of, okay, now I've got some feedback on what's engaging. Now how do I take that and then spend against that and target the right audience with it?
This is incredibly insightful, and you've emphasized this so perfectly onto the amount of creativity that is required, because data truly transforms the way that businesses make strategic decisions, and creativity adds that cherry on top. But how do you see platforms like For Good making a difference for businesses and non-for-profits alike?
So For Good it's a bit of a shift to what we're talking about. It's another project of mine that it's been a labor of love for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm building a platform that allows consumers to support nonprofits and charities that they care about through a digital engagement connection.
Right.
Long story short, we built an app, and consumers can download the app, tell us a little bit about themselves, go through a search engine to find the charity that they like, whichever it is, pick that charity they want to support, and then they can engage with brands in the platform. And those digital engagements end up equaling dollars from the brand, and then that money can go to the charity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm building basically, and there's more to come. There'll be surveys and all kinds of stuff like that. And I'm essentially working on building an ecosystem that takes the advertising and marketing ecosystem and industry and creates a funding engine for charities and nonprofits simply through digital engagement, because it's a pretty tough slug to constantly raise money. And we have to find ways to innovate on how those nonprofits that are really, many cases, the ones that are trying to make a better future and trying to help us feed children and educate and do all these wonderful things to make the world a better place. We have to find ways to get funding to these causes that doesn't require them to all the time just go out and ask for handouts.
Mm-hmm.
There's an ecosystem out there that we can re-engineer to actually help move this ecosystem forward and help those that are helping pave the way.
That's amazing. And you're right. Data-driven strategies, they open doors to impactful decision-making. And your experience, it shows us that, it shows us how to blend technology with purpose. Business technology is a tool, but it's your strategy that drives results. So use data not just for growth, but to create lasting connections with your audience. Let's take a quick break. And when we are back, we'll explore leadership and personal growth in entrepreneurship. Stay tuned.
Hey. You think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. Still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep. Healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah. Well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep. That's all us. That's all UPS.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, we're in the business of you.
We're here to help you plug in,
connect and recharge,
make an impression,
and meet with confidence.
With 19 brands built for business,
your business gets even more rewarding.
With an award-winning loyalty program at 6,000 IHG hotels and resorts worldwide.
Welcome back. Before the break, we talked about data-driven strategies, and now let's dive into how personal growth and leadership shape entrepreneurial success. Next, we'll dive into personal growth and leadership in entrepreneurship because leadership and personal growth, they go hand in hand with entrepreneurship. And Noel, you've had a fascinating journey of growth and transformation. How has your experience in martial arts shaped your approach to leadership and problem solving in business?
Well, definitely, having to apply something over such a long period of time. Mm-hmm. I mean, discipline. The thing with martial arts is you have to repeat the same thing over and over again to get extremely good at it.
Right.
And the same is in life. As an entrepreneur, I will tell you, my early days as an entrepreneur, I was a bit of I have ADHD. Mm-hmm. And until I realized that it was when things started to get a little bit more monotonous, it means that you're getting good at something, and that's where the big opportunities actually happen for growth.
Right. And it's amazing how disciplines outside of work can influence our professional lives. Finally, we'll now dive into the dynamic future of digital advertising, exploring transformative trends and how emerging generations can adapt and thrive. Because at this point in time, the future is exciting, yet it's uncertain, especially in the fast-paced world of advertising. And Noel, you've mentioned your passion for preparing Gen Z for what's ahead. So tell us, what trends do you see shaping the future of digital advertising, and how should the next generation prepare for these changes?
So, I really want to, help ensure as much as I possibly can and share so that, this younger generation can get the tools. You're right. The future is amazing.
Right.
But it's scary.
It is.
I can't, I'm 48 years old. Mm-hmm. So for me, when I was in my 20s, it wasn't, we were barely digitally connected. So this constant digital connectivity, but more so with AI, the way that it's happening right now, I can't imagine trying to plan 10 years out right now. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. There's no way. You have no idea what the world's going to look like from a job perspective in 10
Mhm.
years. So how do you plan for that? Very difficult. And so there's a lot that's happening right now. And, I wouldn't say I feel responsible, but I'm part of the engine within advertising that is in many ways feeding these algorithms,
Mhm.
right? That are pulling in, the younger generation into the social media world. And so I think it's really important that they understand how all of that works, so that when you understand how it works, you can, you're better prepared to not hurt yourself with it. But also with AI coming and where things are going, there's three things that I would say, and I'm sure there's more, but from my humble sort of opinion and from, my angle, three things that, I think can help prepare that generation is, entrepreneurship. I think there's just going to be more and more entrepreneurs out there. There's, the large companies, they're having to compete with single people now.
Right.
I mean, Jake Paul compared to, a big brand, it's one person, right?
Mhm.
So it's gonna be continue to fraction. So I think entrepreneurship, because in 10 years, what I can say for sure, there's probably going to be 3 times as many entrepreneurs in the world. So teaching entrepreneurship, advertising, because, well, if you're an entrepreneur and you own a business, you probably learn how to advertise it.
Right.
And then third, creative thinking. So design thinking, not creative thinking as in like, drawing. I mean, sure, but and design thinking in terms of, iteration and just creative thought, right side of the brain, and left side of the brain, and how those things can interact.
Mhm.
So that when you are an entrepreneur, you're coming up with ideas and you're kind of trying to pursue your dream, and maybe you've got some purpose, you can train your brains for those two things to work together,
Mhm.
which is really important. I think if you can get those three things, that'll set you up with whatever happens in 10 years from now.
Right. Well, these are some great pointers, Noel. And the way you're blending innovation with mentorship it's truly inspiring. Listeners, the future belongs to those who prepare today. So stay curious, embrace innovation, and never stop learning. Now let's kind of begin our conversation by discussing the journey of entrepreneurship, because building something valuable, it takes time, it takes resilience, and it takes a lot of vision. And as entrepreneurs, the journey is often filled with highs, and it's often filled with lows that really shape us. Can you share your story of starting out in the advertising industry and how your early experiences shaped the entrepreneur that you are today?
Sure. I've been in the advertising industry now for, next January will be 25 years.
Wow.
So long time in the ad industry. Been an entrepreneur now for, since 2011. So 13 years. There's a lot of ups and downs, for sure, throughout that entire journey. Without grit, it could be it's a roller coaster. But I think, going back to what has allowed me to do this, probably goes back to, early days in learning how to sell.
Right.
It's very difficult to start your own business without having that first skill set of selling.
Mm-hmm.
And one story that I could think of that really kind of shaped how I wanted to sell and the type of entrepreneur, the type of business person I wanted to be. I did everything. I did door to door. I did telemarketing, and I'll never forget this story. I was in university at a telemarketing company, and I was young at the time. And there were a bunch of these older guys, about my age right now, actually, working at the telemarketing company that talked about the old days of selling and how they made all this money by, doing these kind of short term, I guess you could call them scams. I don't know what the term would be. But they were all kind of laughing. And that's when I walked up to them. I'm like, that's why you guys are working at a telemarketing company at the age of 48. Because if you don't think about value, the value equation, anytime you're making anything that you want to grow, you have to be thinking about the value that you're bringing to the customer.
Absolutely.
And if you're not focused on that, good luck. So, people, a lot of times they talk about purpose. And that's really important too, because, at the end of the day, when you're starting your own business and, you're in the grind, you need to have some purpose. But on top of that, you need to be focused on the value equation of what you're bringing people and what problems you're solving. Because it doesn't hit until you actually get to that point that you're solving problems, right? Otherwise, growth would be very difficult unless you're thinking about that strategically.
That's really inspiring, Noel. I mean, your perseverance is quite a lesson for entrepreneurs that are navigating challenges in their own journeys. Listeners, remember that every entrepreneur's journey is different. So celebrate your wins, learn from your challenges, and don't shy away from seeking support when you need it. Now, before we let you go, and it's been quite an enlightening discussion, Noel, before we sign off, could you share one final piece of advice or a key takeaway for our small business owners that are navigating today's challenges?
Sure. Yeah. I kind of want to go back to what we talked about when it pertains to things like hyperlocal.
Right.
So for small business owners, digital really gives you that ability to think locally. Now, if you're thinking if it's a e-commerce, a little bit different. But again, thinking locally about context for your audience. What is the context that relates to your audience, and then how do you use that to drive your message, right? At the end of the day, that's going to be one of the most important things that you can figure out. And it's something that you should really, really focus on. You can be local. I mean, you can literally send out a message saying, I have this, whatever product that you have, people in the, in the Brampton area or in the Etobicoke area, or even just within a 5-kilometer radius of, let's say you have a store.
Right.
And if it's online, you can, again, get very targeted based on, keywords or whatever the case may be. But that hyper targeting capability within digital is extremely important for small businesses, so they can ensure that, even though they don't have these massive budgets, they can accomplish a lot with a lot less. Right. So be very wary of, I'd hate to say traditional media, but I think if you're a small business, you really need to really focus on the digital aspect versus the traditional aspect, which is, more of a shotgun effect. Once you get there and drive brand, and you have a brand, then you can start to expand it. But think local or think contextual, right? But really understand that message that resonates, and then how are you going to proliferate that and find your audience, right?
This was great. I mean, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your insights and your expertise with us on such a crucial topic that is for small businesses. But we really appreciate your time again. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And in today's episode feature Noel Geer, a trailblazer in digital advertising, sharing insights on entrepreneurship, data-driven strategies, and leadership. We explore trends shaping the industry, actionable growth strategies, and the importance of personal resilience in business. A big thank you to our partners RBC, UPS, IHG, and Google for their invaluable support. Please don't forget to subscribe to the Canadian SME Small Business Magazine at CanadianSME.ca for more inspiring content. Till then, we'll see you in the next episode.